Hey there, guys, and welcome back to the Open Mid Leaguecast episode 12. We're going to be talking about the Academy and LCS for Summer Week 1. But before that, we're going to talk about the patch and SoloQ Behavior and a bunch of other things. So first, let's talk about the patch. The newest patch is almost a week old, 10.12. They made some buffs, they made some nerfs, but most notably, in my opinion, are the rune changes, because I think that those are the most interesting. The Guardian changes are that the range is now bigger, and also it doesn't just like trigger on any damage. It triggers at a certain damage point, and it doesn't give you movement speed anymore, and the shield is actually bigger. So it's okay, I think. I think a lot more champions are going to be taking this now. Low Pally's been messing with Guardian brand, which actually kind of works. I was watching it. I was like, okay, this looks like it can be useful, but they made some other changes to Predator. They added a thing on the HUD for Taste of Blood, which is good. And then the unflinching changes. This rune's pretty much useless, honestly. But with this change, you gain 20% tenacity based on your missing health, instead of like it just being on your summoner cooldown. So I think that that's a lot better. Is there anything else on the patch that you want to talk about so I can stop talking?
Honestly, I think a couple things that were pretty good for the patch were the Yasuo changes. He was a little too strong in a lot of different matchups where he should be punished more. I think these let him get punished a little bit more. You know, a little less health. The shield is weaker, and wind wall being on a longer cooldown helps with, you know, punishing him when he has those openings to get punished. Volibear obviously got buffed and is playable now, like not actually giga awful, which is pretty good. And the various nerfs just weren't shit. Honestly, they weren't that big. I think people will still play Varus a lot, and at least for me, the change that I like the most is Akali getting a small buff to her Q, which will let her, you know, start one-shotting the mage creeps again when she's clearing waves in the side, and that'll probably make her so much better because they really got, like, it feels so bad when you have to Q and then walk up and auto 3 minions. Like, it just doesn't, like, the amount of time it takes to clear is really bad. So I'm glad they buffed her, so maybe she'll see some play again. I think teams are pretty scared to pull it out, honestly.
Yeah. They also buffed Senna for some reason.
Yeah, not sure why. Think she's a little too good. That personally, I just don't like the whole idea behind Senna. Just like as a design choice, I don't like it. So, you know, whatever they think is best. They want to buff AD Senna, but realistically, she's never going to be played like that. She's going to always be played as like kind of like a support to someone else, right?
Yeah,
So
as a funneler sort of
yeah,
thing.
yeah. Which I don't get because they don't like funnel. They keep trying to get rid of it, but then you put a champion who's a funneler.
Yeah, I guess they just didn't think about the repercussions of making a support that's also a marksman, that's in the marksman class sort of thing. They were kind of just like, oh, look at this. This is kind of wacky, right, guys? And then it's like, oh, shit, wait, the champion's actually really good. So,
Yeah,
yeah, it just seems really weird that they buffed it this patch, but I haven't seen a lot of it just because not many people play it in, like, I guess D2 or whatever, but I know it's a terror in, like, GM higher. Like, people will literally, like, spam that shit.
yeah, hella
And
broken.
yeah, and going back to the various changes, I don't think those changes are enough. Like, the numbers may seem nice, but I feel like his poke is still going to be really unpleasant. And he's like, especially in pro play, like, he's just pick banned, and it's really annoying.
Yeah, like the base damage nerf is like 0.11. So essentially at like level 10, you only have 1 AD less, right? Or
hmm
2 AD less. And 2 AD, I don't know, it doesn't seem that big of a deal to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna kill it,
Yeah.
but you know, it is what it is, right? It's
I
gonna.
mean, we saw it lose.
Yeah, there are
So,
definitely ways to punish poke Varus because you know he's immobile. So,
yeah,
but
we'll get to how you beat it later. Um,
the ghost change I think is the most problematic. in some
Yeah,
cases.
no, I love it because it reminds me of a better time for mid lane, where you get ganked, you pop ghost, and you walk away, and you have
Yeah.
fun. So that was really
they
good.
did they did increase the cooldown though. So
Yeah, but this is basically how it was before.
yeah, because it now activates instantly.
Yeah,
So
they're essentially just reverting how ghosts used to be. Um, and I think it's an odd change, to be honest, because they didn't like how it was being used before. But I guess they're flip flopping now with the kind of champions that are being played in mid lane. They might not want to take Ghost, or maybe they're trying to bring it back so that mid laners won't take TP as much. Because that's been like the key rune that like everyone fucking takes is TP, but they want to offer something better, which is Ghost, right? So
mhm.
I think it's a good change, honestly. I don't personally like TP being used as much as it is recently. Um,
Mhm.
so I
Agreed.
think it's a good alternative for people who possibly don't have escapes like Syndra or Oriana, because they made those champions like super hard to kill in mid lane. TF too, so like the big good changes, I think, honestly.
Yeah. But I think that's about it for the patch. I mean, there's obviously other changes that we didn't touch on, but I don't think they're too major or too minor sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean the only big thing is the 10-11 change, which was last patch, which was the XP changes to jungle, um, which has significantly changed the meta for jungle as we've seen. Graves, Nidalee coming back into the fold,
Mhm.
Nocturne getting played, Kindred getting played. These are champions that are just Kindred was kind of viable before, but the Graves and the Nidalee coming back are like really big, I think.
Yeah, and also they did the AD changes
hmm
on that patch
Which
too.
which I
So
don't think are that massive, to be honest.
yeah, I don't I don't feel the difference honestly. But
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. It's just the changes to jungle has kind of fucked some teams, I think. Uh, with not with junglers who aren't exactly that kind of style players, and has buffed some junglers who are very much that style player, right? So
hmm
it's an interesting change for the pro scene.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But moving past that, SoloQ behavior.
That has been
That's been the hot
yikes.
topic for the
Yeah,
past month or two or something like that. Voy Boy is the big person that really broke it or broke the story. I was wondering when like a pro player or a figurehead within the league scene was going to bring this up because especially this season, like people will like literally just AFK, run it down, and then I'll see them like later. I'll like check their OPGG and they're in a game or like they played more games after that, and I'm like, I don't know. I feel like that there is like no real punishment in terms of like griefing games, especially in Diamond Up. Like people will just do it over and over again, and like you'll get queued up again with them, and they may target into you or whatever the case may be. But
hmm
it just seems like really crazy that like right, just like let it get to this point that like they've just been letting automated systems deal with like chat restriction. Like chatting is like one thing, but like when they're literally running it down or like AFK or it, like doing that kind of stuff, like you can't really do much about it.
Yeah, and people say like, oh, mute all and you'll have a better game experience. I get that.
hmm
But
I've been doing that more.
yeah, like honestly, you do get a better experience. But the thing is, some people when you just never respond, just decide to like give up. They're just like, fuck it, I don't feel like playing. Blah 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 blah. And honestly, it's pretty hard to break people out of that mindset. I don't understand why it happens. Like you sit down to play the game, and after like a couple things go wrong, you just decide to give up, and the game is pretty winnable most of the time, but because they decide to give up, the game becomes like unwinnable,
Yeah, and
and
when
that
people
makes it.
start like
hmm
typing really negative things where it's like FF open this fucking jungler this and that, like I get it if it's like they do like a really bad misplay where they like fucking flash in and like miss everything and then they die or
Yeah.
something. But like if they like miss one skill shot and then GG open like all of this other stuff. Like that's when like everyone else in the game starts thinking about that player instead of what's going on in the game itself, and then people start tilting, and it just gets
Yeah.
really, really, really bad because I just think that just because there has been no punishment and no like repercussions for being toxic or really mentally fragile, it just got to this point where it's really bad.
Yeah, I mean, just an example. I had a game where my jungler, decided to camp top and mid, right? So top and mid are both like 3-0. I was playing mid. We're both like ahead. We're winning the top side, and our jungler's winning. But because obviously our jungler's playing to a different side of the map, our bot lane is like complaining, and like one of them says like I don't know, it's like 15 maybe 20 minutes into the game, he says, "Oh, jungle diff," and then the jungler decides like, "Wow, you said jungle diff even though I got these two lanes ahead. Fuck you," and he started griefing, and I was like, "What the fuck?" Like this game was super winnable. Like the enemy bot lane wasn't even that fed. We crushed the solo lanes, and just because
Hmm.
someone said jungle diff, he like loses his mental and like decide it's not even losing your mental, it's just deciding to grief someone because you don't
Yeah,
like them, and it's
it's
like
literally just being a child.
yeah, it's fucking ridiculous, and I don't even remember if I won that game because I might have actually still won that game, but uh, it's just so much more annoying to play the game at at a competitive level when not even competitive at like a higher level when people just don't feel like winning. Like it's easily winnable, but they just don't want to.
Hmm.
It's ego shit. I don't know. It's annoying.
Yeah, it's really bad, especially since because some people are, taking the game seriously, especially when you play ranked. Like, if you're doing this shit in normals, like, fuck you, whatever. Like, I really don't care. It's fucking normal, bro. If you have that big of an ego to do it in, like, that sort of environment. But obviously, everyone's complaining about it in a ranked setting because that's where people want to try the hardest, hit a certain rank, do this, do that, whatever they want to do. And there are these players that are just literally on a knife's edge as to whether or not they want to play the game or they want to grief someone. And like literally I had this happen today as well, where like I was autofill jungle and I was just, playing the game, and Graves like went down bottom like level 3 or something, level 2, level 3, and like he invaded my red and we saw him like go through, go out, and like my bot lane starts pinging me, and like eventually I do come down, we get some kills, this and that. But my mid laner, like, he's playing Heimerdinger into Akali, and he's like, no mana, no HP, and then Graves comes and kills him. And I'm like, I don't know, man. And then he goes 0-2, and then he disconnects. He later comes back because I guess he realized that we have a fucking Aphelios that's like super fed. But yeah, it just seems like players are just like willing to alt F4, leave the game, and like not care more than like previous seasons. Cause like this shit wasn't normal until like I'd say like for the past like 2, maybe even 3 years. I'm not exactly sure.
I think
But
it started happening more in the last year or so. I think when they last season when they fucked with MR, it just like has led to this whole thing where like people were losing so many games and just it was really bad. Like honestly, the repercussions to the MR shit that happened at the start of season 9, like we're kind of feeling it now because less people fucking care.
yeah,
Um,
there are
and
less players in there are less players playing now, and on top of that there are just more people just like super toxic and just really immature.
yeah, I mean, I don't even play solo queue that much anymore, so like I'm kind of jaded on it.
Yeah, I mean,
Because it feels better to play something else to like. I'm like Diamond in TFT, and it's so much more fun to go and try and climb in TFT because like the only person you can really blame is yourself. So it
mhm.
doesn't. I don't. There's no human aspect to playing TFT where you have to
other
interact
than
with
the
someone.
seven other than the 7 other people in your lobby,
Yeah,
but
that you want to beat, right? But they're all your
yeah, yeah, yeah.
enemies. But when you're on a team, like you have like this, I could hate someone's guts. I will still play with them and try and win the game because I want to win myself, right? And
Yeah.
it's just easier to play TFT because it's just a solo thing. You play by yourself and you have fun. If you have like you can make yourself have fun if you want or not. So,
Yeah.
but in League you can just get held hostage. So
Mm-hmm. And they're, implementing tools to like combat this, obviously, like reporting and champ select and this and that. But like, why weren't these tools in the game to begin with? And like, other people are like pointing to like streamers and things like that, like Yasuo Mo, TF Blade, etc., etc. And even in like Tyler One, who's like definitely the most popular League streamer by far. And I honestly still think that he's toxic to a great extent, especially in game, because he's definitely one of those people that'll say like FF open, but he's still playing the game. Like he'll say the
I don't know. Sometimes you can tell when he's like checked out.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. But like most of the time, like I'm not trying to defend T1 because I've had him on my team before, and like when shit goes down, he's the first one to call someone out on their bullshit. Like, what the fuck are you doing this and that? You made this mistake, and I'm just like, hey, bro, I'm just trying to like play the game here, you know. But Tyler Irwan is definitely a prominent figure in the league community, and he's definitely one of the more toxic people. And there's been a recent thing with TF Blade where like he's smurfing, he's doing another or one of those unranked to challenger bullshit challenges or whatever. And he like added someone after a game to like flame them, and I'm like, that's such a toxic trait. Like that's so
it's on.
fucking weird.
It's so. I don't even know what to call it. It's just so sad, honestly. I think if someone asks me, like, they send me a friend request when they've been flaming me in game, and like they flame me after, I will laugh at it because I'm like, this person is fucking weird. Like,
Yeah, it's
honestly,
such a
you're
weird thing to do.
like, you will probably. But the thing is, like, we play in high low, right? So like, we're probably gonna see these guys again, but it it's just like, what? Why? I don't understand, because what does it even give you if you flame me after the game? It doesn't give you anything besides fucking. Does it make them feel better to let them for them to think like, oh, you're fucking trash? I don't understand. Like,
Yeah, it's definitely a fucking weird champ sort of move because like I've had multiple games this season where people have tried to add me, like friend request me, and some of these fucking psychos are weird too. Like I will reject it and then they'll add me again. So what I've started doing is when I'm in the post game lobby and then I see that they add me, I right click their name and block them and then move on because they can't send me another friend request after that because I'm like, you're fucking weird, bro. Like, all right, I had a bad game or like something happened in the game where I wasn't performing or this and that, whatever the case may be. You adding me and trying to flame me afterwards, it just makes you fucking weird. So
yeah. Oh, the worst one is when you're playing well and like you're the reason your team's still in the game, but then you make a mistake and then they try and flame you. And I'm like,
yeah,
bro, if you were pulling your weight, that mistake wouldn't have been such a problem. Like, fuck off.
yeah,
Yeah, people.
mistakes
I don't
happen.
know. People don't want to fucking pull their weight sometimes, and then they want to flame when It's like, it's like I'm lifting 250 pounds, and you're like lifting 50, and when I like I don't know drop it or something, and it makes a big sound, they're like, bro, you fucking suck. What are you doing? And I'm like, bro, if you took off like 100 pounds off this, I could easily do it. Like, it's just
That's one way to put it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's
I get
it's
what you're saying.
bullshit. Yeah, fuck SoloQ right now for me. I'm I I can't play it right now unless I'm having fun playing champions, and the champions that I like playing just aren't very good. So it makes it tough for me to want to play League sometimes. Because the champions I want to play aren't good, and that's it. It'd be
Yeah.
a different story if the champions I liked were good. I'd probably play a shit ton because I like playing those champions for a reason, you know?
hmm I just think the ladder is just super duper fucked.
Yeah, hopefully maybe they do
So.
something to fix it. Honestly, I wish they make it harder to climb into
Oh no, they've already done that.
Diamond. No, I wish they made it harder to climb into Diamond specifically.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like
Because like climbing, climbing into a grandmaster, master tier, like that higher elo is super duper hard. And I've seen Low Pally do this. He had a brand new level 30 account that he leveled himself. It had like a 60-70% win rate. He like hit master tier or whatever, and like he would get like plus 15, minus 20 or some shit. And I'm like, why? Like it actually makes no sense because his win rate and the way he's playing, just because he gets some unlucky games or unlucky teammates doesn't mean that he should be losing more than gaining, especially since he's winning more games.
yeah, and that's the problem at the top is that because they make it easier to, and it's true, they made it easier to get into Diamond. It's literally easier to get into Diamond than it was before. So there's even it used. It's kind of like how in season 3, where there was no space at the top, so like D1 90 LP and D1 99 LP are like hundreds of elo apart. And like
Yeah.
that, and that's the thing where it's kind of happening again, where it's easier to get to the top, but then it's so much harder to pass through like that upper echelon because of how the disparity is between players. Like they need to space it out more, and I think the best way to do it would be to add literally a whole nother tier in between diamond and plat. Like if you added a tier between diamond and plat, and all those like low diamond, high plat players can chill in there, then that would be way better because games would get more even. Like there's too much gap between a D3 player and a D4 player. Like
Yeah.
like I don't understand why some D3 players are like I don't even know how to put it. D4 players are just a different breed, dude. They're so bad to me. I can't look at them. They're
They're
so
just
bad.
there to say that they're diamond.
Yeah, they're there to say that they're diamond, but they're so bad at the game. Because they don't understand anything. Like if I talk to a random D4 player, I doubt he'll understand half the things I'm talking about, like wave manipulation or turn diving or even how to build sometimes or like how to gank, how to path, like these things like that are kind of like basic that you should know when you hit like high tier masters or grandmasters, basic stuff you need to know. They just have no concept of it, and it it just tilts me. Like I'm like, damn, D4 players actually used to be better back in the day.
Yeah. I think adding like another like I guess elo in between diamond and plat may sound good in concept, but like the way we got here is because like Riot changed the ranking system with like adding master tier and then getting rid of the 5th division, right? But on top of that, they also messed up the MMR. So maybe if they do that but not mess up the MMR, we'll be okay.
To me, it just would make the games more even. It because I think games are too uneven right now. Where you know, at least in Diamond, where it feels like one player could be way better than another player, but they're like in the same like area of elo where they can get matched against each other, and
Hmm.
that's the like one D3 player should not be getting shit stomped by another D3 player, right? Like that's
Yeah.
not what the gap is supposed. Like D4 to D3, the gap shouldn't be that big between the players. You
Hmm.
could probably put all of D3 and D4 into another tier, and it'd be fine because D2 players are also way better than D3 players. I think the gap starts diminishing once you get like D1 to like master and GM. Like the gap isn't as large, but in like between high diamond and low diamond, the gap is so big.
Yeah. It just seems, Riot needs a lot of fixing to do.
A lot of fixing. I'm hoping they change things because I do like playing League,
Hmm.
but just not recently. So
All right.
TFT,
So,
woo!
yes, team fight tactics. That is
TFT,
fun.
yeah.
Let's talk about Academy. So the Academy roster changes we'll first touch on. So the one that sticks out to me is that they got Chime for Golden Guardians, and they moved Keith back to AD. And the other one that also stands out is another support, Yama, they got for TL. Um, and then obviously Huni is on EGA. And they got Tomo for C9A because King can't play because of visa issues.
hmm
And I think
Winston for TSM
yeah,
Academy,
yeah, yeah.
uh,
Winston for TSM.
who played in Scouting Grounds 2019. So did Chime, and I think Yama played there too. I'd have to
Oh yeah, and
verify.
there's also Pume for
Pume,
100
yeah, who
Thieves.
from 100 Thieves next. So he hasn't played in anything, right? He hasn't played.
Yeah,
He,
he's completely amateur scene,
yeah,
I believe. So
he's played in UPL. He's played in Big, I think. Whatever 100 Thieves next was playing in,
mhm.
he was playing in. Some people that didn't make the cut for this split. Cal not playing anymore. He plays for Radiance now, uh, which I think TLA had a pretty rough time, and I think Cal had a pretty tough split. So maybe getting a little bit better and coming back is the move.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm sorry, Schernfire left too. Greg taking his spot on TLA,
Mm-hmm.
which I mean I don't know. I don't think Schernfire was that bad, honestly. It was kind of tough for me to see him have to go. But I guess he
Yeah.
got soured by playing in LCS with with TL, which
Yeah.
kind of tragic. Happens, Uh,
Probably poor management.
yeah, it
I
happens. Like you
guess.
bring a player up, and just because you need him, and you do badly, and then nobody else wants to pick him up, right? It's
Yeah.
happened to plenty of players who get screwed over by an org, and it's kind of tragic sometimes.
Yeah.
Like Gorka. Gorka's not playing.
Oh yeah, he got fucked over because they were like, we'll go with Keith. I'm like, okay, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I totally don't get it. I mean, okay, I kind of get it, right? Because you forced Keith into role swap, and then you bench him, and then Golden Guardians is like, damn, bro, we kind of fucked this guy over. All right, so now we're gonna fuck you over,
Fuck
Gorka.
this other
Yeah,
guy
fuck
over.
this other guy who less people care about. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, okay, I'm gonna be honest. Keith probably can't play in LCS as a starting AD. Like, there's some good ADs in the league, right? I think it's tough for him to get a starting spot over anybody.
Yeah, I
And
think
Gold,
Keith's time, like Keith has had many opportunities to like show that if he's worthy of being in the league, and like I feel like he's been in the scene too long where it's kind of done for him, but he's still playing in academy.
yeah, I don't think there's anybody you can realistically get rid of.
Hmm.
That would be he'd be an upgrade over, right? Like
Yeah,
Tactical has come into the league and has shown he's good. Um,
yeah, it's pretty good.
Johnson has come into the league and he's shown he's really good too. And the thing is, Johnson and Tactical didn't even look like the best ADs in Academy when they got brought up, right?
Big brain.
So, I mean, King probably looked like the best AD in Academy. The unfortunate thing is he takes an import slot, so that makes it tough for him to be able to play in the league. And there's speculation that they might add an OS rule where like minor region players don't count as imports. Uh, but that would kind of kill a lot of NA talent. Like you might not see Johnson in the league then. You might not see Tactical if like King could play, or
Hmm.
and so that it's a little tough for AD carries. I wish Gorica had still gotten to play, to be honest, because I think he didn't have the worst split ever. I think Golden Guardians they did all right, and I think he could have improved. I think it's
Hmm.
just better to see. Personally, I think it would have been better to see if Gorka can improve than whether Keith, even if he is the better option right now, is he the better option in a year?
In the long term,
Yeah.
yeah. I
So
think maybe their thought process was, all right, we're gonna bring Chime in, and we're gonna need someone to show him how to play bot lane properly, right?
yeah,
Because when it comes to solo queue and obviously academy, it's completely different. So I guess they were just like, all right, we're gonna have Keith kind of show you the ropes. But I feel like one split in academy for Gorica might have been enough, but I guess they're just valuing that like veteran sort of like talent highly or something.
yeah, and another thing that's moved is for supports at least is Poom playing for 100 Thieves, right?
Hmm.
And Breezy out. I think Breezy had a pretty tough time.
I think he's still on the roster. I'm not exactly sure because they said that they were gonna do a 6-man roster or
Yeah, they
something like
said
that.
they were going to do a 6-man roster, but they didn't. Like, he's not listed right now under their team. But even if it is like 6-man, I think Breezy is. He showed a lot of prowess on like Rakan,
Hmm.
um, but not really much on other things. So, I mean, Rakan's a good champion to like have a good basis on because he's like a playmaking support, right? But he didn't really show much performance on other things. So I can see why they like Poom because Poom had I mean, already he's kind of shown a little bit more depth. He played Nautilus in one game and he played Tarek in another, and those were both really good games from him, to be perfectly honest. So
Mm-hmm.
I think already we're kind of seeing like the kind of potential bringing up like young Town has. I really like what 100 Thieves Next is doing with that.
Yeah, I think Pume definitely has a lot of potential because he did play with Otto on 100 Thieves Next.
Yeah,
So
who could have showed him the ropes a bit.
yeah,
Otto, he got some stage time in LCS, right? Believe he
yeah,
had
he
one
did.
game, maybe two.
He had a
Uh,
couple games
couple
on
games.
stage for LCS. So Otto's been in the scene for a while. So him being with Pume during the 100 Thieves Next time was probably good for him. And now he's in Academy, and he could learn more from Prismal and the rest of the team. So
Yeah. I think for roster swaps. Oh, one more I want to talk about. Asta coming back, my boy. Tragedy that he didn't have a spot. Honestly, really tragic he didn't have a spot. I think Asta's so weird because he got a chance to play games in LCS. What did he play? Like 4 games, I think. And he looked really
Mhm.
good, and they still bunched him. And I'm like, wait, what's going on? That guy looked really good. He's from NA. What the hell? And then he disappears into Academy, and then he wasn't even playing last split. So just really crazy to me, honestly. Especially when, like I said, some people are still playing who have probably hit their ceiling.
Mhm.
So I think it's good that Dig has a rookie there. But their team is like all veterans besides Asta. Uh, so
Yeah,
um,
definitely interesting.
and one more, last one probably is Winston playing for TSM Academy. Winston was in scouting grounds, and 2019 he played for Team Infernal, and they didn't really have a good showing at the time. But I can enjoy that they're bringing in players from scouting grounds because
Mhm.
I think a lot of players from scouting grounds just never get heard of again. Right.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah.
He was previously known as Julius, to those wondering.
Yeah. So it was glad to see him playing. I think he recently hit. I don't think he's hit rank 1, but he's top 5. I think right now. So I think it's really important, especially when you look at who's at the top of SoloQ right now. It's like 2 accounts of Sven, 2 accounts of Vulcan, and Winston. So I think it's pretty telling that like he's a good solo queue player, and I hope the whole meme TSM junglers whatever. I hope he can just grow, um, because they now have the coach. Oh, why is his name escaping me?
For which team?
TSM Academy.
TSM Academy.
Peter
Peter.
Zhang.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Peter Zhang is working with them again. So that's. I mean, he did well with Acadian in spring 2019. So I think maybe Winston can kind of learn from that and improve, which is good. I always want to see players improve, right? So
Yeah. Always good to see new NA talent in the league, especially for Academy, because I think, especially Treats, he brought this up recently. He was like, yeah, Academy's feeling more like a retirement home, which kind of sucks because it's kind of true in some regards. Because, like I said earlier, Keith's still playing. Diggs roster is 3/5 of the old TL team. So I feel like more talent should be brought up more often, but I feel like these orgs aren't taking the chance or, going through the growing pains that they should when they bring in a rookie. So, you know, it's good
yeah,
to see new players.
yeah, and I mean, there's a couple players who got brought up from Academy, this split into LCS, which is better than usual. Potluck being one, and we can talk about how he's performed on Immortals so far. Uh, yeah, and but the big surprise for me, who's playing in Academy right now, is like Smithy, Apollo, and Hakuho, who probably are all 3 players who should be playing LCS.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it just seems a little weird just because, like you said, these players are, they have shown that they are good enough to, be on LCS teams, and they have played on LCS teams, but there's just not enough spots or not enough players, this and that, for them to be on said teams.
Yeah.
I just think that maybe expanding the league may not be such a bad idea. But then again, maybe I feel like league being one of the biggest games out there, and the competitive scene being so populated with a lot of people that want to play competitive sort of thing. Opening it up not to just, LCS and Academy, sort of like the big league, the minor league, to just 10 teams, maybe more teams, maybe another league, who knows? I just think that, Xmithy, Hakuho, and Apollo, I think that those are fine NA talent. It's just that they've never had, except for Xmithy, the bot lane of Apollo and Hakuho, they've never had like their chance to like show that they're like super duper good. Just because they've always come short, whether it was because of the team or individual performance, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, Apollo and Hako were probably the best part of Immortals' last split. So it really confused me that they're not playing this split. But Immortals there's like rumors that Hakuho only wants to play with Apollo, and that's why Gate is playing instead of him, because they want to play with Altec. Personally, I think the difference between Altec and Apollo isn't that big. But if Immortals feels that way, that's up to their discretion. But
Yeah. I guess Hakuho didn't really like playing with Altec during the spring or something like that. There was probably some sort of issue that we don't know about
yeah,
completely. But I think it's always good to like have bot lane players play with other people, because you get a different perspective and different idea of how they want to play the game, sort of thing, and you have to adapt, or they have to adapt, vice versa, sort of thing,
yeah,
to how you're playing. So
yeah.
I
I
don't know.
mean, definitely. Like personally, I think that I mean, Apollo and Haku have hit top four multiple times. Like
Yeah.
I don't see a world where certain bot lanes in the LCS are better. So that's my point.
hmm But let's talk about the actual Academy games, I guess, now.
Yeah.
There are multiple teams that are 2-0, FlyQuest, TSM, 100 Thieves, and Golden Guardians. And then there are a couple teams that are 0-2, EG, Dignitas, Liquid, and C9. And then the 1-1 teams are CLG and Immortals. So where do you want to start?
I think we can start. Let's start off on a good note. So let's talk about 100 Thieves.
Okay.
100 Thieves had some pretty good games, honestly. Their first game against Cloud9A was pretty, I will say, season 10-y. Because they used they got top inhib like super early into the game, right? Like 20,
Mhm.
like 18, 19 minutes into the game, somewhere around there. And then they proceed to do a secret 20-minute Baron, where Pume like stalls out and Nori like the whole time from getting into the pit, and they just get a free Baron, and they use that to get in control, and then they get the next Baron, and then because the game was like super even until they just kind of like sneak this Baron, and obviously it's because they have a Philios with freaking Crescendum Chakram and is deleting a Baron.
Mhm.
So I feel like Cloud9 Academy, that was a tough game for them to win when you lose a Baron at 20 minutes like that.
Yeah, I think 100 Thieves definitely played this game well, but also C9 were stretching the draft a bit
Yeah, a little
with
bit.
the Lulu mid and the Graves jungle. I think the Graves jungle is good, but maybe having the Lulu bottom lane might have been a little better, but I know Diamond loves his Thresh, so maybe they had an idea with the Thresh Cassia bottom lane. But yeah, I think 100 Thieves, they definitely looked strong in this first week. Looked like that they have an idea of how they want to play the game, and since they kept 4 out of 5 of the members in this week's games, they pretty much have like a pretty solid and good idea of how they want to play the game.
Yeah, and Contracts honestly looked a lot better, I think.
Mm-hmm.
He was probably one of the big reasons why they were struggling against teams like TSMA. And it's a really good showing that they beat Cloud9 Academy. Obviously, This is with losing King, who I'm not sure how vocal he is in comms, but he was by far like one of the best ADs in Academy. So losing King is a pretty big deal, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, he can't play, and Contracts just looks better now. He had a really
Yeah.
good game on Nidalee. Contracts came up during the time where Nidalee was super good. He was a big Graves player. He was a big Nidalee player back in the day. So I think those champions coming back into the meta really suit him. And even when he doesn't play, he played Trundle in a game. He also played really
Mm-hmm.
well on the Trundle, which was honestly kind of refreshing because Contracts has not had the best time recently, performance wise. But
Mm-hmm.
good. I think if he continues to play like he's playing, I think the 100 Thieves Academy is going to be a big threat for the title.
Yeah, I think this meta, like you said, definitely suits Contracts more. There's a lot of uh, junglers like Nidalee and Graves that I think he could do well in. The C9 game, he might have had a couple int plays on the Nidalee, but you know what?
Yeah,
Respect,
you go for him. You go for him.
At least he was going for it, So, but at the end of the day, I think that 100 Thieves are definitely in a much better spot than they were last split. Probably because they now know what they want to do in the game, and I think Pume and Prismal are probably getting along pretty well because I know I've watched other streams and they're like duoing and like playing a bunch of different champions. So
Yeah. Um, their game versus so 100 Thieves, good, great improvement from last split. I think already, which is nice
hmm
to see. Right. Next team we could talk about that went 2-0, FlyQuest Academy, who you were saying you really liked the change in support.
yeah, I mean, like say what you will about Vig. He's been in the league for a while. But I think that because of that, he has this sort of like shot call, sort of like voice on the team, and it definitely shows because FlyQuest previously they had JJ, and whether he was the shot caller or not, I'm not exactly sure. But it looks like in these new FlyQuest games with Big, they have a better idea of how they want to play the game, and it just seems like that they're more on like the same page, sort of thing.
Yeah, and he had a really good game versus IMT Academy, which was a big surprise I think to most people, especially because it was against three former LCS players with like Smithy, Apollo, and Hakuho. Uh, and it was a good showing from Revenge and Fnatic, especially. Fnatic, I think, had a really good game. He was
hmm
playing Nocturne, which I think people haven't really put on their radar as a champion who like really farms hard. I think we might see more of him. I'm not sure how he does into Graves in Italy though, so Nocturne might be a pick that FlyQuest Academy is just ahead on the meta on, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think Nocturne works as like a farm sort of jungler. Get to six fast, look for a lane with no flash, or try to kill them sort of thing. Um, but yeah, I think that FlyQuest, say what you will about last split, but it looks like for their first week, anyways. Obviously they got the 2-0 secured. I think that Big being on the team now, they probably have a much better understanding of what they want to do in game.
Yeah, and I mean one of the wins was versus Cloud9 Academy, who was champions last split. Obviously, the caveat that they don't have the same roster, they lost King,
hmm
but I mean, still, you beat 4/5 of a team who won the split. I think that's pretty solid. But Cloud9 Academy did have another interesting draft for that game. Rek'Sai Karma being the mid lane jungle duo, kind of yikes for me, dog. I
Yeah,
don't really think
and they
that
had no
those
tank,
yeah
so
those don't really match. So yeah, especially because Fudge played Gangplank. He is a good Gangplank player, but the comp just didn't seem to fit together well, especially
mhm.
versus Nautilus Ornn. I don't think Ezreal can kind of chew through that, right?
Yeah, I think I guess we could try to transition into C9A here, but I think that for this draft, anyways, against FlyQuest, they were just trying to do too many things at once and probably flex too many picks at the same time, because we don't know what the draft order was, I believe, but I would imagine that they probably first picked the Yumi pretty early on, and then they kind of just like left the Karma there to see exactly where it would go, because it can be flexed into top or mid, but it would be hard for me to believe that they like last picked the Yumi or something weird. But they probably picked it early on because Big definitely responded with the Knowledge, which is a pretty good matchup in terms of like trying to get the Yumi sort of thing. But yeah, I think, it's only in week one. C9 definitely, they have a very high ceiling to hit. And with a new AD on their roster, Tomo, they just have to get him on the right page in terms of how they want to play it, or whatever the case may be. Maybe some of the players are not performing to what they want. But yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully, I mean, week one impressions, they could totally turn it around.
Mm-hmm.
But they did have some. They had one tough opponent with 100 Thieves A, I think, and I think most people expected them to beat FlyQuest Academy. Um, so realistically, like this is something. It's a little bit of an upset, but they could always turn it around against some of the other teams. I think they're definitely better than some of the other teams, even though we've only seen a little of them so far. Another
Yeah.
team that went 2-0. The last two teams that went 2-0 are Golden Guardians Academy and TSM Academy. Both who had relatively, I think, easy schedules. They played the same two teams. They played TL Academy and Dig Academy, both of them,
Mm-hmm.
just on altering days. And those rosters seem, at the moment, very weak, with some of the changes that have been made, right?
Mm-hmm. So touching on the Dignitas versus TSM game, this game was relatively close. Like, not gonna lie, it was like 28, 29 minutes. It was 6-6, but Dig had Ocean Soul, so it was like, oh shit. So TSM kind of were like playing. They were literally playing on a knife's edge, because if they do something wrong in a team fight, they could literally lose the game because of just how Ocean Soul works. But Dig messed up, Asta got caught out, and TSM kind of just alled in on the play and just killed all of them. So, yeah, I think that TSM, for them anyways, it's a change in the jungle role, which is pretty big, I would say. So they have a new voice on the team for early A game. They would definitely have to work around on how Winston's playing and try to maybe get him on the same page on how he's not playing right or something like that. Because I think between the two games, I think he played fine, all
Yeah,
things considered.
yeah. I mean, he played two Trundle games, and both games I mean, the game versus TL, a bit iffy. Kind of got carried by Evolved and lost, but happens. When you have traits and lost as your bot lane and Evolved as your mid laner, it's okay to get carried, right? But the TSM game, I think he played pretty well. He was. I mean, the dragon control was really good. But that was over. Like the last two dragons was a really big team play to get those. But again, they kind of gave over Aphelios to Lost, which is big no.
Yeah,
Lost
never
is
give up Aphelios,
to not to Lost,
especially on certain.
yeah, a lot
Yeah.
not to Lost in traits. Like those guys are good. I mean, I like TSM Academy's draft versus Dig because they left open the Varus, and they were like, "I dare you to pick it," and it was, they picked it, and it didn't seem as oppressive as in some other people's hands that we saw, like Perks in EU, who is like the only other person to get it, uh,
Hmm.
and he fucking smashed with it. So obviously people are scared of it, but TSM Academy was able to play against it, and it kind of helps when you have Ocean Soul versus Varus. It's like, hey, you see this poke? Yeah, I just healed it. What's up? Like, so
Yeah, I think for Asta's Varus, anyways, for this game in particular, both teams wanted to go to late game. Like, without a doubt, you got Corky Aphelios versus Azir Varus. Maybe it would have been better to go with the on-hit Varus, who knows? Because Varus poke falls off, which is why, like, in G2's game, when they played it with Perks, they were just looking for fights everywhere, because once Varus hits those spikes, you need to look for fights. Because if you're just sitting around waiting for objectives, things like that team is going to fall off eventually.
yeah,
And you can't just sell the items and redo it, because you're going to start with Comet. Like, those are your runes, so you kind of just have to commit to it. But yeah, TSM being very smart, being like, all right, get the Varus, so then we'll just get the Aphelios, which is the better champion late game, like, overall.
yeah.
So
I think CLG Academy kind of did the same thing where They gave over Varus, but then they picked Draven, which was
Hmm.
cool to see. And obviously, this game was like back and forth, but not because of like bot lane, not because of Varus. Varus was like very unimpactful in the game.
Hmm.
But it hit late game, and Varus is like, "Hey, I have to kill Galio, Jarvan, Ornn, Leona." Like, XD, and he just like gets fucking popped every fight. Like, and that's the problem with Varus is like if you don't close early, especially like an 80 like Draven, you're gonna fucking lose at some point. Where you're just not gonna be strong enough to do something. And that was the longest game I think we saw, 54 minutes, right?
Yeah, EG versus CLG.
Yeah, long ass
Yeah,
game.
this game was very interesting because I was like, oh my god, when is this game gonna end? And there were a decent amount of kills, all things considered, like between
60
both
kills,
parties.
dude.
Yeah, so this was definitely a bloody game, all things considered, as well. But I think CLG's draft, like in the end, was just easier to execute. Like when you have Galio along with J4 and Leona to like go in, and Ornn, like it's gonna be like pretty easy to like find engages and find fights. While EG, they kind of have to land a Verisalt and sort of just like kill that guy in that time sort of thing because they don't have like a dedicated engager because they drafted the Rumble for top lane. So.
Yeah. That was like the weird. I mean, Huni is playing for EG now, so obviously he's not gonna be like, yeah, put me on a Ornn, blah blah blah. Like he does not.
Yeah.
He's
Fuck
gonna
it.
want to
Give me
play.
Maokai, whatever.
Yeah, he wants to play fucking Rumble, and he did play a game of Ornn, but obviously they still lost that one. But the Rumble game, he was good. He was doing well, and I don't think Giyu is the kind of player who wants to play Azir. Obviously, last play we saw him popping off on a bunch of different picks, um, but definitely not Azir. So that's just not his style of champion. Um,
Hmm.
Even though he did well on it for the most part, but that last fight where he gets like hit by Leona ulti, it was the funniest thing ever, because he gets hit by Leona ulti,
And then just
yeah, and then he
dies.
just dies. Like he didn't even get to do anything because he died to like Draven ulti, Galio ulti, and Ornn ulti. Like he didn't even die to like people hitting him. He was just like there, and he just
He
got,
died by the
yeah, he
CC.
just died by the CC, which is fucking hilarious, honestly. Um, but it's also sad because I'm like, oh no, Azir. He also had like double death cap that game.
Yeah, he had
Yeah,
he had late game.
late game. It's like, oh, let me sell this Ludens for a third death cap. Like, I was like, holy shit. It was a long ass game.
Yeah, that game was kind of crazy to watch, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think CLGA like they went 1-1, right? I think they're not that bad despite them losing a game because if you look at the game that they lost, which was against IMT, man, like CLG knew that they had to make early plays and they were making early plays, but like they just didn't kill anyone. Unfortunately, like there were so many times where like Alorm walked away with 1 HP, Xmithy walked away with 1 HP one time, and like they just didn't get these kills. And in return, like IMT got like 4-0 on the Corki, and I was like, okay, I guess the game is gonna be really hard now because IMT for their comp they really strived for the late game fights. But I think CLG, they didn't make any roster changes, but I think they're a lot better at like playing the game now because I feel like last split they kind of just like ran over and died as like a solo queue team.
Yeah, and another thing to say, caveat, they are playing against Apollo Hako and Xmithy. And Insanity, who
Mm-hmm.
could probably be playing LCS if there was more NA starters. But the thing is that what I don't like about the COG draft is you draft one, realistically, you draft one damage with Zaya, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, when you're one damage comp versus a comp that has a Yumi in it, it makes it really hard. And this is the thing, like, if you have Yumi on that enemy team, you cannot draft fucking tanks. Like, you have to kill someone. You have to kill someone. Like, honestly, that's what I'm just. It's hard for me to say, but you just need to burst someone because if you let a Yumi extend a fight where, you're tanky and you only have one damage dealer, you're gonna lose the fight. 100%. There's too much
Yeah.
healing, there's too much utility, and especially with two carries like Corki and Ezreal, you even if you kill one, another one can pop off. So
Yeah.
I think this was a big draft diff game, where if there maybe was a better aggressive topside pick, if there was maybe a more aggressive mid laner, I think you can kind of play this out. But I don't think you can do anything in this particular matchup, draft wise, which it was pretty tough for them honestly. So
Yeah, it was definitely really bad because they went for like really crazy, like aggressive plays. Like they like tried to like dive bot at like level 3 or something. Like CLG were definitely being proactive in the early game, but unfortunately they only got 2 kills
yeah,
by the end of the game, which is kind of crazy
yeah,
because like they were trying to make so much happen, but they just didn't have enough damage or like someone flashed away or whatever. Random healing because Yumi's in the game,
yeah,
and yeah, like Yumi's definitely really problematic because of that. Because she just, if a fight is overextended, like you said, that person that's like 1 HP is gonna be full in like a couple seconds.
yeah. And moving to IMT where they had like two pretty different games, I have to say. Obviously the loss versus Fly Coast Academy, right? Where
Hmm.
they had like Smithy on like Lee, Insanity on Jace, like this kind of like pseudo poke comp with like some early game power, and it just didn't work out at all. Like they got pretty hard outscaled pretty fast, and big play Nautilus was really good. So IMT their draft in the first game was like it was kind of like they didn't really care about winning, like because like Smithy's there. I don't want to say they don't care, but like Smithy's like how much does he really care about playing in Academy? Um, Apollo and Hako are like, fuck, we're in Academy again. What the hell? So that game looked more like they wanted to play something else, but the next game they like played like the standard draft with like Trundle, Corki, Mesdro, Yumi, right? So that
Hmm.
looked a lot better. So this team, I'm not sure where to put them because I'm not sure. I think it depends on how much they care. Because if they care a lot, honestly, this team could go first, right? Like they have really good
Hmm.
players, but if they don't, then like they could be I don't know eighth or something.
Yeah, and I think a lot of teams are doing like the 10-man roster sort of thing. I know Dig's doing it.
Yeah,
Like every week they're gonna like evaluate who's gonna play where this and that. And I think IMT might do the same because they have like a lot of older players, so they
yeah,
might as well give them a shot. So who knows? Maybe Xmithy will be playing in week 2 or weeks further, but we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, I think IMT, they have a lot of great players, and I think if their motivation is there, they could probably just like steamroll the league if they wanted to, especially since C9A, the champions of last split, they lost their AD, so there's definitely some synergetic issues there for bot lane in particular. But yeah, I think IMT, if they decide to take a Academy Championship, they can do it if they want to.
yeah. And another team that you were just talking about the 10-man roster thing, like Dig, is
Hmm.
I don't think Asta is better than Johnson right now, and like I think for bot lane, it's pretty much, I think Afro and and Johnson are going to be playing. But for the other three roles, Lordo, Dardoch, and Phoenix, versus Frog and Acadian and Viper, I think it's completely up in the air who's going to play. Um,
Yeah, I would love to see Lorlo and Dardoch play on LCS. Despite it being online and them just playing on like different days or whatever, I would love to see them play in the LCS because I think that those two in particular, like they have a really great friendship and they have a lot of like time playing with each other. So I think that they can do good things. And like Dardoch doesn't just camp top, by the way. Like if you watch the Academy games, like he will tell Lurlo, you are weak side this game. I am leaving you.
yeah, again,
And he'll play towards
yeah,
other parts of the map. So
and it's
that's
understandable.
exactly what happened in the GGS game because Zion Spartan was playing Jace and like Lurlo actually can't do anything. So
Oh yeah, but that's the thing. Like, Lorlo could play in LCS. Like, I don't think he's. It's a toss up between Lolo and Viper, right? It could just be like
mhm.
attitude or like how they communicate. That's the difference between them. But another top, like it doesn't look good when you're getting beat by Zion. Although Zion has looked way better recently. Um,
Yeah, I think
and he's been
Zion
spamming
Spartan.
Jace in SoloQ too, so he's like popping off.
Yeah, I think Zion's just like, all right, enough of this shit.
Yeah, I bet Zion could probably play for a team. It's a toss up between certain like Viper, Kumo, Ruin, like Soaz even I think looks kind of iffy. Like he could replace one of those four players. Now whether he gets traded to one of those teams, toss up. I think for Golden Guardians, I don't think he can. It's tough for me to say he could take a spot over Hanser. Um,
Yeah, because Hanser is just like he's pretty solid. Like, he'll have a game here and there where like he gets solo killed or something like that, but like Hanser never like straight up ints or something like that, or like has like a huge mechanical misplay,
yeah,
I feel. Hanser's sort of just like he's a literally rock solid top
yeah.
laner.
I think his main problem is he doesn't want to play. He doesn't want to play weak side, and that's like his big problem. It's because he
Yeah.
wants to play strong side, but like his team at the moment, I think very much needs him to play weak side because he has FBI and Demonte and Closer, so those are very
Yeah.
like strong sided players.
I forget who said this, but I watched the Thorin video with Maxlor today, and like Maxlor said, like when you're playing towards weak side, you're like the shadow carry, which like makes sense because like you're literally sacrificing your own success for the other people, and as long as you don't int, like you'll be able to do stuff later in the game. So I think that that's like a good way to put like a top laner playing to weak side is that they're being the shadow carry.
Yeah, and I think, and that's the thing. Like 2016 TSM, Hanser was always playing weak side. When you have Bjergsen and
Yeah.
Doublelift, and that team was fucking good. And Hanser was a beast weak side player, super beast weak side player. Like honestly, if it's funny because if Hanser was playing on TSM now, I think that team would be way better because Broken Blade's not that good of a weak side player.
Oh yeah, Broken Blade 100%. Like, I watch him like play solo queue, and even sometimes in like LCS, like he'll be like overextending to like get the wave in and things like that. But like, Broken Blade is definitely like a player that will literally try to push his limits to the greatest extent. And then if the jungler comes, I guess it's GG.
Yeah, I think the last two teams we have to talk about for Academy are TL and Golden Guardians, right? So
Yeah.
TL rough start 0-2, right? And I'm not that surprised, honestly. I think
Yeah, I'm not either.
yeah, like they had a good team last split, but the best parts of their team kind of are gone now. Like Tactical is up in LCS. Congrats to Tactical, good. It's a toss up between Yama and Cal right now. Who's the upgrade? I think we need to see more of Yama first. But
Yeah.
then Grig coming in for Fire is I don't know if it's that great. Like I think Grig probably isn't LCS caliber at the moment. You
Hmm.
could argue he might be better than Wiggly, but I think when you look at every other jungler in the league, I don't think you can put him above very many. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's tough for, and like even Fire toss up, right? We don't know how much better Greg or Fire is. Um, so putting him in this team where Jenkins is kind of a liability most of the time, kind of like a Gangplank one trick where they just leave him alone and either he gets to late game or he doesn't and you lose. And
Hmm.
I kind of feel bad for Yusui, where he was really trying in that Golden Guardians game. He was landing multiple man uh, stuns with Echo. He was 5-2-2. He was really trying to carry, and like it just didn't pan out. It's unfortunately.
Yeah, I think TL's team in particular, I feel like they just got like a bunch of players and try to like make it work. I feel, cause like they have Vakara, which unfortunately his time, where like he debuted was like 100 Thieves, and like the way that the way he was put in that situation was that like he was kind of just given a spot to Worlds, and then when he went to Worlds, he kind of got shat on, whether it was his individual performance or like team or whatever. And then you got Greg, who like TSM jungler, and it's known that like TSM, like their management and like their coaching staff just like ruins junglers like mental, and like Acadian exposed this on the Crackdown, I believe, where it was like Reggie or something like that, or management, I forget exactly the words, but pretty much Greg and Acadian, they had a lot of confidence issues, just because of how like management, it was like, oh, the jungler's not doing X, Y, and Z, and then they're like, oh fuck, I guess I'm not doing that
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah,
So I'm not sure if that's still on Greg's shoulders, because that would really suck. Because I feel like, especially in these games, like Greg's just like dying randomly, and like the GGS game, like he just got outscaled and fucking got one shot by the Syndra.
Yeah.
So that was not fun to watch.
No,
But
no, it was not. I mean, he had
yeah,
some like questionable moments in the Golden Guardians game, like just flashing when he didn't really need to. And I think Olaf is really big that you need to use your flash aggressively. But when you have to get your flash like blown off cooldown because you're like out of position or like you use it preemptively, it feels really bad because there's not much you can do after that, right? Especially when you're
hmm
playing like you're supposed to be playing with Yumi and like popping off, but it didn't seem that way most of the time. And
yeah. Yama is Korean, by the way.
is he?
So yeah, he plays in NA for the most part, but he is from Korea,
Okay.
which I believe in like his tweet, like he didn't have to go do military because he got signed to TL, which is good for him.
How
But
old is he?
I'm not sure if there's a communication issue maybe there. I know Rikara can speak Korean, so that shouldn't be a problem for the bot lane, but maybe as a team collectively, maybe there is. Especially when you're playing a champion like Yumi. I think there's a lot of team reliance when you're playing that champion. But yeah, I think TL, they're probably going to have a lot of growing pains more than other teams just because I think their roster moves, support and jungle, are like pretty big, in my opinion.
Yeah, a lot of growing pains. As for Golden Guardians, they had 2-0 week, I believe, or was it 1-1? Sorry.
It was 2-0.
2-0, yes. Okay, the other 2-0 team I'm talking about.
They beat TLA and Dig.
Yeah, so
But I think
you can go ahead.
uh, yeah. I think it was just from like draft. I think that they drafted pretty well in both games. For the Dig game, they drafted a pretty strong bottom lane along with a really strong side or a really strong top side, and then they had Galio mid, which he could rotate between those two sides, and then they had Trundle jungle, which could, sort of keep the early pressure off from like Lee Sin's over aggression or whatever. Um, and then for the TL game, I think TL were just trolling for part of it. I'm gonna be honest. But yeah, I think GGS were definitely playing really well
Yeah, and
for that week or whatever.
yeah, and I'm surprised. I'm surprised like Zion didn't run it back with the Jace pick. Like the Jace wasn't banned, and it was like iffy to me because like obviously they got Aatrox on red side, but he just played the matchup the day before. And I think if they had been playing Jace, like I can imagine maybe it's because you don't want to play three when he like pushing lanes, because
Hmm
MF Thresh pushes, Syndra pushes early on in that matchup, and if you played three pushing lanes, it would give Olaf a lot of opportunity to do shit, right? Because he definitely
hmm
beats Trundle in the early game at least. So kind of confusion. But I mean, they took one player, they made him play weak side, and it was a strong draft. Keith popped off on MF, and like this is the whole thing between like, did you want to win Academy or did you want to like bring up another player better? Keith obviously played well. Like there's
Yeah,
no disrespect to that. It's just a difference in opinion on looking forward or winning now. And I mean, Golden Guardians Academy, they want to win right now. I'll be them, right? You bring up Chime, you teach him how to play. Maybe he moves up eventually, and that would free. It wouldn't free up an import slot right now, but maybe if you want to switch things around for the main roster, it could at one point. Same thing for Zion, same thing for Hard and a Blaze Olive. Like if you can get those players to improve with the veterans they have on the team, yeah, it could look good. I mean, Hard kind of
yeah,
is a veteran though.
yeah. He's been in the league for a while,
Yeah,
but
tough.
that sucks.
Yeah,
It is what it is. Do you want to get into LCS now?
yeah. I mean, yeah, we can get into LCS right now. Some of the roster moves for LCS,
Yeah. So let's talk about the minor roster moves before we talk about the TSM double.
the big ones. All
Yeah.
right. Well, let's see. At the moment, some roster moves. Viper moving to Dig. Obviously, we touched a little bit on that. Um,
Tactical to TL.
Tactical TL replacing Double Lift. Spica moving up to TSM. Interesting,
Mm-hmm.
I have to say. Honestly, in my head I think that TSM probably were looking around and nobody wanted to get on the train. right? The TSM Double F hype train. Don't think many people wanted to join that. So moving up, Spica is interesting, gotta say. We'll see how it
Hmm.
goes. He did play last season for the Gauntlet, and had a tough time playing Sejuani, I gotta say, and Jarvan mostly. So rough there. Also,
Hmm.
who got moved up is Potluck from Academy. Who
Along with Gate and
Yeah,
Altec.
along with Gate and Alltech. Alltech was playing last split, like half of it. And Gate obviously was been playing in Academy and been playing in Optic for a long time. Um, he played for Optic for a while, right? But both years,
Yeah,
2018
I
and
think he was
2019.
on Optic since Optic came into the
Yeah,
league.
who's now was bought
Before
by
they,
Immortals, so
yeah,
he's on his third year with the team. Um, Interesting moves. Potluck looked good in his games, at least for the start of them.
yeah, he wasn't running it or anything like
Yeah,
that.
that was other people's jobs, uh,
When you got Aika,
yeah. FlyQuest solo now permanently in the top lane since they've gotten rid of Viper. Good change. I
hmm.
think a lot of people are kind of downplaying the fact that FlyQuest with only 3 weeks with solo was able to make second place, was able to pass EG. EG making no changes, even though
Yeah,
Huni was bought. But that looks like a more of a 2020 move or 2021 move, because
yeah,
he does become a resident in 2021, and interesting to see how that team will look when you have three laners who want to win. Because we've seen plenty of
yeah,
teams just fucking crash and burn when you try and put three winning players. Kumo looked a lot better actually. Like maybe it's the Huni
yeah,
coaching, because that's been something people have said is that Huni is working with Kumo to improve him. Um, and he looked better in his 2 games that we got to see. So if
yeah.
Kumo can
EG definitely looked pretty
yeah if
good.
Kumo can become a strong, like a good weak side player, I see EG moving like really far. Um,
Hmm.
Albeit they did play 1 game against CLG, so who also didn't make any changes, which confused a lot of people, me included. Um,
Yeah,
some other teams that didn't
they
make
did not make any
changes.
changes. C9 obviously.
C9 didn't make any changes. 100 Thieves didn't make any changes. Did you want to see a change for 100 Thieves?
I mean, it's kind of hard with the world we currently live in to find suitable replacements. Oh, I think you forgot to mention Golden Guardians Demonte,
Yeah, but I wanted to
but
just talk about the two teams that didn't change before we got to that one.
yeah. But Hundred Thieves. I mean, I'm not sure. I think that Hundred Thieves got the way they did through playoffs last season was because the other teams were also bad. And obviously, C9 is just above the rest, like literally everyone else. But I think when it comes to 100 Thieves, I think they're giving everyone one last shot to see exactly how it works. Because when it comes to playoffs, there's 8 spots. So if you happen to end up ninth and 10th, I guess you didn't deserve playoffs anyways, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um, but I think 100 Thieves, they probably had some week 1 jitters or something like that because the team, they did not play well, obviously. But when it comes to like them making roster moves and roster changes, I'm not exactly sure where they would have made the changes, honestly. I think they keep Cody and they keep Sunday, but everyone else, I'm not sure who they would get replaced by. Maybe some academy players or whatever, but I believe they all extended their contracts with 100 Thieves. So,
Yeah, I think the tough spot for 100 Thieves, like their contracts are for a while, right? But the only roster moves you
hmm,
could make that are like potentially big upgrades, Diamond,
is like
yeah,
mid
mid and support.
or
Yeah, like
support.
Diamond and Treats, clearly like the two best supports in Academy right now. Both really good. And even though Diamond had a pretty rough week 1, I wouldn't put it all on him. He does have to learn how to play with Tomo, um,
Hmm.
which can be, it could be rough learning how to play with someone else, especially when you just played with King, who was really fucking good. But
Hmm.
Treats is clearly like probably number one in, but he takes up an import slot, so you'd have to lose Ryoma, and then it's debatable whether you want to pick up an NA mid laner. It's like Golden Glue. Your options are like Golden Glue and Insanity, Yusui, Blaze Olive, like Evolved maybe. But those are all
Hmm.
players that it's kind of interesting to see if they would play, right?
Yeah, because obviously when you go from academy to LCS,
Oh,
there's a big gap in
in mid
like
lane, big gap in mid lane.
yeah, there's a big gap there.
You
So,
know,
and since you're playing it in the big leagues, there might be more pressure on you, this and that. So, and whether or not you're ready for that is up to your own judgment. So,
yeah,
you know,
it's tough for mid lane in LCS. You got players like it's wild that a bottom tier mid laner in LCS is like Pobelter. Like like bottom five is Pobelter. Pobelter's won like 3 championships. Like that's kind of crazy. That's kind of crazy, right? Like most of the
yeah,
mid laners in NA have been to Worlds. I think all of them. I think all of them except for Ica has been to Worlds. I think Ryoma made it to Worlds from OS.
you might be right. I'm not exactly sure, but yeah, I just think that you know, roster changes for 100 Thieves were very minimal, and they were probably just like, all right, let's just try it again, because they didn't do so bad, all things considered, like result wise. But I think it was just because the league itself is just much weaker
Yeah,
compared to
yeah.
C9.
When teams handicap themselves, like TL and TSM. I mean, TSM didn't handicap themselves; they were just bad. But TL, like, just
Mm-hmm.
breaking their own knees, didn't look very good for the league. And CLG having to play with Crown, not looking good. Yeah. But like we were saying, for changes, the last couple changes that we have to talk about. Demonte going to Golden Guardians, Golden Glue's out. He's also not playing Academy. They're trying to decide whether to use him or a Blaze Olive. Um, so he's kind of more in a coaching role at the moment. Tough for him.
Mm-hmm.
He only got one split in. But unfortunately, from watching, small sample size of games, right? 2 games. But from watching the 2 games of Golden Guardians, it looks a lot better, I gotta say.
Yeah, could just be individual performance or the team actually getting better now that they've played with each other for a full split, and only bringing in Chime. So
No. You mean
you know,
Golden Guardians, the main team?
oh, the main team. I mean,
Yeah, where
they didn't look.
Demonte, like they looked a lot better, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They definitely looked a lot better just because they brought in Demonte, who, some may argue is the stronger mid laner compared to Golden Glue. I think Demonte has a lot more confidence when he's playing the game, maybe.
And he has a different style too.
Yeah, he's definitely a lot more fun to watch. I will say
Yeah,
that.
he's more of the Niski type than the than the Jensen type, I would say. He's more in the category of
Yeah.
Niski and Jizuke than like Jensen and Power Revo and Froggen, right? Like those are two
Hmm.
clearly very different styles, and I think teams. I think we saw in the playoffs, right? Niski and Jizuke like made big impacts on the map by playing a more roam heavy style. And I think Demonte, him and Closer together is just like kind of an insane mid jungle duo right now. They played really well, honestly, in their games. One game they couldn't really close it out, but it's a good one nonetheless, right?
Hmm. Definitely, definitely.
Uh,
I think FBI and Huhi are getting a lot more comfortable with
oh
each other.
yeah,
I will say that.
FBI's look better. I wonder. See, I didn't know who was better between FBI, King, and Lost because those were like the 3 OCD carries who came over, and they all looked pretty freaking good, right? Like all things considered, they were
Hmm.
at the top in their respective leagues. I mean, not FBI, but it didn't look like he was the problem with the ball lane last split, and obviously Lost and King were literally like top 4 academy, look like top 280s. So I'm curious to see how like with more time they could build synergy and get really good, hopefully.
Yeah.
And I think the last
All
move
right.
is double lift.
Yeah. Let's get to that because
Yikes.
this is a pretty big one because a lot of people, there were rumors and speculation and things like that. But they did it, and it looks like a lot of people from the community were wondering if there was like poaching or like some sort of internal conflicts because Lena is the president and they are dating, but no one knows who exactly made the move first. But TSM or Riot also were like, hey, it's not wrong with this trade or this roster move or whatever. But yeah, I mean, my opinion of it before the move was actually official is that as long as they didn't talk to Doublet before everything happened, it would have been fine. So, and it looks like that's what happened. They played by the rules. As long as no rules were broken, I'm okay with it. But I don't know if that'll make TSM stronger just because that wasn't TSM's problem last split.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a kind of it was kind of part of the problem where it didn't seem like Kabe and Biofrost meshed really well. So bringing Doublelift back is, kind of solves that issue as far as like working together through bot lane. And their bot lane kind of, they didn't really carry many games, even though they got into the position a couple times. And I think maybe TSM wants a more clear path to victory with, it's a pretty clear win condition. Like play through Doublelift, like he'll carry your team, right? And that gives them kind of more of a easy way to play the game. But overall, I think the trade doesn't specifically solve the issues around jungle and top, right? Especially like we can just get into TSM as a team at the moment, aside from the trade. But their games this week were. One game was very poor. I have to say, like it was really bad. Like watching the game, I was like, "There's no way they win this game." A lot of people were like really into the TSM draft, like, "Oh, winning lanes, blah 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 blah." I was like, I don't know about this because I saw
I don't know about winning lanes.
Yeah, exactly, right? Because they let TL let TSM take the Syndra, right? And you know what? I have played that Azir versus Syndra matchup hundreds of times. I know how it goes. Azir 100% can win that matchup. You have more range. You don't have as much kill pressure, but you're not going to die either because you have a shield and a dash away. Like, and clearly you saw when you put two mid laners who are very clearly similar in skill level, Jensen was winning that matchup, right? He didn't die. He was keeping ahead in CS. And then what is your Syndra doing then, right? She gets outscaled, and she's not putting pressure down.
Yeah, especially when your jungler's Kane, you can't do anything.
And the Kane pick, weird champ. Fucking big troll, honestly. Like, because you have these winning lanes, like, again, I say quote-unquote, winning lanes, Syndra does have more pressure, and you're supposed to think that, I'm sorry, Kalista and Taric are supposed to have more pressure than, I believe it was Bard and Aphelios? Yeah. Again, kind of a wash. You're kind of saying like my players are better. You're trying to say like my players are better, so they'll win these lanes, but that clearly did not happen. There was not that big enough of a gap in the skill between the players for the winning lanes to kind of pan out, right?
Yeah, because Kalista, Taric, like they have the early pressure, obviously, but they kind of have to get in range to do it, right? Because Kalista's short range and Taric's melee. And when you're against Bard, who's a range support, you could poke, or not poke, but sustain the all-ins because of the heal shrines. It just seems really weird that they would opt in for Kalista when Aphelios was picked, in my opinion, because Kalista's going to fall off and Aphelios is going to do Season 10 things later in the game. So
yeah,
obviously... Kalista gives you that sort of like, what's it called? Objective control because of her Ren. But since they locked in Kalista Taric, they didn't have that sort of like, they could flex to Kalista, which is what I thought they were doing, but they just locked in Taric, and I was like, oof, that's kind of bad.
And especially because, they pick Kane. Kane is not stronger than Trundle early. Like, how are you supposed to get pressure to take Dragon? Like, I'm pretty sure their game plan was like win lane, win game. But then they draft a jungler who is like opposite. Like, hey man, let me farm. Let me get up there. But his transformation came at like 22 minutes or something crazy like that.
Yeah,
Literally not a
literally right when the
champion.
game ended.
Literally not a champion. Now, we were watching the game together. I was like, bro, this is literally not a champion. Like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, TSM were kind of playing it 4v5.
Yeah,
Unlucky.
4v5 unlucky. And honestly, like TL played bot lane perfectly. They kept the lane even. Then they gave first. They gave wave. They gave away level 2 by one creep. So then they got pushed back a little bit, but then they hit level 2 with the wave on their side. And Broxah was able to come up behind them, and while they didn't go for the gank, completely do it.
They knew he
Yeah,
was there.
like they knew he was there. There was no way they were gonna get dove, and realistically, they didn't even really. They might have spotted Broxah, I think, on a ward near mid lane.
Yeah. They spotted him going through, but they didn't know exactly where he was. But they definitely played respect to that because
Yeah,
they were not in range for the
yeah,
gank
but the
at
wave
all.
management was just on point because say there was no mid ward and TSM was playing up like they would have been if they didn't know he was there, then they would
Yeah.
have definitely gotten 2v2. They would have got a gank and killed there. So
Mhm.
props to how TL was playing their wave management and their jungle pathing in that game because it was really solid and it really protected their lanes, especially because Broxah based from bot lane and then went straight top to guard for a top lane gank because the wave was pushing in. So like just overall,
Mhm.
lots of teamwork in the early game that I was noticing that was really good. And obviously they just at some point they were just stronger because like you said 4v5. It was realistically it looked like a fucking 4v5 game.
Yeah. Spica was honestly not doing anything in that first game. But Doublelift said that it was like first game jitters, things like that in the interview when they won against Dig. In that game, oh my god, that was just a wash. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah,
Like
nothing you can really
was
do.
not even
I mean,
close.
Spica had a better game on Trundle. Pretty good, right? But you have to caveat it
Hmm.
with you played TL, who you want to be better than. You lose pretty
Hmm.
badly, but sometimes you can look at it like maybe that's a pretty big draft diff, right? I know some people
Hmm.
thought TL won the draft but lost the game. I don't have that opinion. I honestly thought that TL's draft was way better. Um,
Yeah.
but the dig game, the TSM versus Dig, I think that there is a better draft, and also you're playing against Dig. That team, like you literally give up your $2 million top laner. You just bring in. You lost Greg. Yeah,
Viper.
you bring in Viper, like super budget roster, like really big budget roster, I think, and it's tough. I think for Dig to do anything, this split.
Yeah. I think for this game, like Dig, they don't have a lot of tools to make plays, and like their carries like aren't gonna be as strong as Quirky MF late game with the Yumi. Is just how I see it. Anyways.
Yeah. So tough for the teams that were, those teams. I think TSM. Honestly, they. Where do you think they? Where you're a fan, right, of TSM, right? So trying to
Hmm.
keep the bias out of your head for being a fan and wanting to see them do well. Where do you think they honestly stack right now? Having watched Cloud9, having watched EG, having watched Team Liquid.
Probably somewhere in top 6.
Think
Somewhere in
think they
there.
can pass FlyQuest?
They can right now, probably not, because FlyQuest, they're playing with pretty much all of their members except for Solo, and Solo came in towards the end of the split. So, relatively speaking, like FlyQuest are just continuing the train they were currently on, and TSM made a pit stop, changed 2 of their players out, and they're not starting back from square one, but more like they have to get back up to where they were before, and go past that, obviously.
Yeah, I think what needs to happen is more. Spica needs to develop a little bit more, and I think Broken Blade better learn how to play weak side. I'll put it that way, right? Like,
Yeah, because I feel like Broken Blade doesn't get as punished as hard as he should, because he literally is like right in front of the enemy top laner, and he's like not getting punished as hard sometimes. And a lot of the times he's kind of like pushing without wards as well. I've noticed,
I
but
think good
I
teams
think
punish him.
that yeah, good teams will definitely punish him for doing that kind of stuff. But I think Broken Blade is the double-edged sword, so we'll see exactly how that pans out for him. Because when he first came onto the scene, he was like a pop-off player. Like he was honestly like 1v9ing, especially in the finals against TL.
Oh yeah, but
But
he's playing
but
strong
after
side
that,
in those
once
games, right? Like,
yeah. But now let's hope that TSM can at least make it to Worlds this time, because if not, with this roster, especially since they brought Doublelift in, which was like their main goal was to go to Worlds with Doublelift now, it's definitely gonna be yikes for the org.
yeah. Moving on from TSM, something that was pretty normal. I think watching Cloud9 go 2-0, right? Not really that
Yeah,
much of
I
a
think
surprise.
I think C9 are just continuing their Smurf across the rift for North America.
Their first
I
game
don't
was
think
like for fun
there's
though.
yeah, against FlyQuest. It kind of just looked like there were a couple of things that were funny, like Vulcan hooking the wall, and then I'm not sure if every player knows this, but when you hook the wall as Nautilus, your CDR on the hook gets reduced. I don't know if FlyQuest saw that. They were like, "Oh look, no hook," and then like Ignore gets hooked and dies instantly. So, um, but yeah, I think Blabber on Olaf is just fucking broken. Like C9 know how to use this champion effectively, and Blabber obviously knows how to play it effectively as well. Because in both games against 100 Thieves and FlyQuest, Blabber literally took over the early game and kind of just steamrolled the enemy jungler.
Well,
Like Meteos, he had no idea
yeah,
what to
but
do.
Centauran
Like
did
he was
int it
like,
though. Like
oh yeah,
Centauran
yeah, yeah.
definitely
Centauran
inted it. Like
definitely ran
they
it
were
down.
in a kind of a winning position in that game, and then it just fucking flipped like in 2 seconds when Blabber got that kill. And it's just like, oh god, this. I was like, oh shit. um, yeah, but yeah, Cloud9. The thing is, like, they had a kind of a for fun game versus FlyQuest, but the game versus 100 Thieves was just kind of sad. I was like, oh, I was like, oh,
Yeah, 100 Thieves kind of looked like their normal selves, where they were just running over and dying
yeah,
and like not knowing exactly what to do.
yeah.
Like Cody couldn't even do anything that game
He didn't even
because,
die.
uh, yeah, he didn't die because Meteos was actually just getting ran over by the
Yeah,
Olaf
Meteos.
over and
This
over
is
again.
not Meteos' meta. I think he is not a Graves Nidalee player. He's not a Kindred player either. Like, I think
Yeah.
he would rather play in the Sejuani, Jarvan, Zac meta, right? So, kind of tough for. I
Hmm.
think 100 Thieves might have a pretty tough split unless Meteos kind of picks it up. But he's never been that kind of player, so tough. Honestly, pretty tough.
Yeah.
And 100 Thieves is still picking Nautilus like every fucking game. I would like.
It's Stun's
I
comfort
know it's
pick,
his
bro.
comfort pick. I wish they would pick something else, right? Like maybe it's because nobody else on this
Yeah,
team
yeah.
engages. Like Stun's always the one. Like he presses Q and he engage.
He's like, I don't mind killing myself
Yeah, I
here.
mean that's why he has the highest deaths in the league, right? But they still place top fucking 3 in the regular. Like crazy, right? Just
Hmm.
happens. 100 Thieves probably gonna have a tough time. Cloud9 obviously way above everyone else. TSM, we'll see, right?
Hmm.
But TL look
TL's looking
really
pog.
looking pog.
Coach Jat.
Coach Chat PogChamp. I do have to say though, their game versus Golden Guardians was kind of like it's hard for me to say because they were keeping the gold relatively close the whole time, and it didn't really look like they were losing at any point. I think they just had to wait to scale. I think that's what they were doing because like I think they were just playing out their comp how it should be played, where they're just waiting for Golden Guardians comp to kind of fall off, and then they won the game, right? Because
Yeah.
Jace eventually will fall off, and Callista, same thing, will eventually fall off, and
Hmm.
Nidalee too. She falls off the later the game goes. So the Golden Guardians really needed to win the game early, but they needed to snowball like 4 Drakes and win, and they couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So I think that's why the Team Liquid game looked kind of iffy to me. But it's mostly because they were just playing around the win condition of like, why would we fight them at 30 minutes when we'll win at 35, right? So
Hmm. Yeah. I think TL now, like now that they've like solidified this roster and like the players that are now playing, They just have like a much clearer idea of what they want to do, especially since like Tactical and Core JJ are like getting along pretty well in the bot lane. I would say like they both now know what they want to do and how they want to play the lane. Um, and yeah, when you have Jat also in there, new coach Pog, because I think Kane, he was getting probably complacent about where he was in his like coaching position, and he wasn't like working as hard as he probably should have to keep that number one sort of thing going. But I think Jat probably has a big brain when it comes to drafts because he probably thinks about draft a lot.
He does. He does.
So and especially in both games, like they had pretty strong drafts, I would say.
And pretty clear win conditions in both. Like,
and like you said, for the Golden Guardians game, they just had to wait till late because Jason, Italy, and Callista do fall off later, and they had Trundle to counter the Orange, so Orange is just going to be a piece of paper later.
Yeah,
so.
good drafts. And I think what a lot of the players have said about Jat is that he unites their, goal, right? He's really good at setting the tone for how you should play as a team, right? So it's like pick a style and stick with it, because TL last split flip flopping on how you wanted to play the game. Same thing for TSM, flip flopping on how you want to play the game. I think a good example is in Europe, Mad Lions. I don't know if you watch interviews with the EU coaches, but Peter Dunn, his whole thing was like when you bring a team up, it's like the 2-year plan. When you make a new team, you get good at one style in the first split, then and you master that style and you keep playing that style and you get good at it. Obviously, Mad Lions took third, right? And then the next split you start learning new styles and like get the growing pains. But in the first split, you have that one style that you've learned, right? And then and obviously in the second year, you just improve upon learning the styles you have developed. So I think for Team Liquid, it's a really good sign that they're playing consistently one style. And I don't even care if they don't play a different style, because if you can master this one style, you will be better than 8 out of 10 teams in the LCS. The only team you might not be able to beat is Cloud9. So, like, with the talent on that team, you could play one style. And, like, we literally saw it for 2 years straight, right? They played one style, easily win 4 championships. So,
I think this TL is definitely going to give C9 a run for their money right now. Just by looking at what they did in the first 2 games, I think that they have really strong players, like you said, and they have, like, a really solid foundation behind it to, make a splash in the scene again.
Yeah. We won't see them play until week 3, which will be a hype matchup to watch. So that'd be cool.
Yeah.
I think after TL, who do you want to talk about? I'm trying to think.
We already talked about 100 Thieves a little bit. Let me see. Evil Geniuses just quietly went 2-0.
Yeah, but I think Evil Geniuses competition, they had 100 Thieves in CLG. Let's be honest here. That CLG game, okay, all right, let's skip the 100 Thieves game because they, we talked about how 100 Thieves, like, they lost that game where, they just, sorry. God.
It's all good.
Where, like, Ryoma had a really bad game. Like, he just missed a lot of skill shots. They had Someday on Orange, so, like, that obviously is not what you want to have for Someday, like, because he's kind of your hard carry. Focusing on this,
kind of one of my trucks.
Focusing on the CLG game, Jesus Christ, dude! Like, they just ran them over. It wasn't even close.
Oh yeah, they actually ran them over, and I like Jizuke on the TF because he actually made some like really good proactive plays.
Yeah.
And Kumo on the Poppy was not that bad either.
It's his pocket pick.
And
I'm surprised when people don't play Poppy. But Poppy has a good matchup into.
I think into Jace.
Yeah, it's really good into Jace because she can kind of. I don't know with the new phase rush better. I'm not sure, but Poppy could definitely win the Jace matchup. So yeah, it's kind of sad for CLG, right? Like.
Oh my God, CLG went 1-1. Holy shit, man.
Yeah.
That IMT game, that was kind of crazy. I was like, yo, CLG's dead here. Like, they're donezo. And then Alltech and Gate just get caught. And then I'm like, oh, there goes Baron. Oh, there goes the game. All right.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing for me is that it's fucking insane that basically we watched the 2 worst teams play, and it was exactly like you thought it would go. both teams just fucking chucking the ball to each other, throwing the fucking game, and then IMT makes the big fucking throw, and CLG win the game. And I'm just like, I barely could sit through that game, dude. I was just fucking so annoyed watching it. It's just incredible.
That was
I
kind of
know.
crazy. Like, it was really like, oh, okay. Wiggly put the pillar up, and then they're like, all right, we gotta walk back the way we came in. Oh fuck, we're caught.
I was just like, what the fuck?
Like Ruin, I don't know how Ruin got behind them. Ruin literally walked up from bot lane. So like they get the mid tower. It's like 27 minutes. They get the mid tower. They walk up to top side. Oh shit, Trundle's there, pillared. Okay, we can't walk around the pillar because we're gonna get slow. So let's walk back the way we came in. Smoothie's there, and then they just get fucked. Like, oh my god, what are you guys doing? And like, I said to myself right after that happened, if IMT loses this game, they're fucking tilted. And guess what happened? They lost the game, boys.
Yeah, dude. They're. I think IMT honestly is fucking 10th, dude. With the current roster that they have right now, I think they're 10th.
They could be. I don't know. CLG were pretty bad too.
But that CLG won the game.
Had some.
What are you trying to?
They did win the game, but CLG had some like really like interesting plays as well. Like Smoothie, he missed a couple of hooks onto the wall or onto minions, unfortunately. Yeah. But yeah, I guess when you have Aphelios, you just get way too cocky about it, and you forget you're playing a immobile carry, and then you just die when you have no flash, and people just get onto you.
About,
especially when they had Diana, right? So
talking about like worst teams, like it's probably bottom 3 for me is like CLG, Immortals, and Dignitas. And kind of expectedly, 2 of those teams went 0-2. And one of them went 1-1, but they did play an 0-2 team. So yeah, that's kind of iffy. I mean, Podluck, I think we touched on it a little bit. He didn't look that bad, right?
Yeah, I think he's just getting unlucky with how the games are being played out.
Yeah, I think he's getting unlucky teammates. You know, his solo lanes don't seem. You know what? I was gonna say his bot lane's doing okay, but you know what? After that game, I don't know. Like,
it came down to one decision, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, he's had some pretty solid early games, but can't really do much else outside of that. So IMT, really tragically, for me, are like tied between 9th, 10th, 8th. Like that's a weird thing. Either Dig, IMT, or COG is gonna make playoffs, and I'm like, I don't know, one of them. Like it's fucking, if they can seek some wins against some like trash teams, you know, whatever. So we talked.
Yeah, I respect Pobelter for the Diana.
Oh yeah, he played well. I like to see it. I like to see it. It's not his kind of style, honestly. He's more of a mage player, so I like watching it. And Wiggly played okay. You know, 6-Day was popping off. Wiggly played okay. Like I said, there's probably maybe a couple junglers that could potentially move up from Academy. So, I think CLG is going to look to make a lot of changes in the offseason. So that's my thing.
Depending on how they do, this split. It just started.
Yeah,
so
who knows? Looking at the last couple teams to talk about, we touched on FlyQuest a little bit, how they look pretty good. They obviously beat Immortals 0-2 team, right? Centauran had that sick play where he like flash ulted and saved like 3 people. Fucking crazy play in mid lane, which is pretty good. Aside from that, I think FlyQuest for me is just it's tough for me to say if they've moved up, like if they're still second place, because EG and Team Liquid look so much better.
Yeah, I think FlyQuest picked up where they left off, but they have work to do, obviously, and I think the other teams, EG and TL, like you said, I think they're getting better
quickly
as the days go on. So I think they're definitely gonna make a run for FlyQuest's money. I'm not sure about C9 though, because we don't know how well the other teams stack against them, especially in like a best of 1 environment, right? Because like TSM last split, they obviously took the only game off of C9, and then TSM ended up being worse than 100 Thieves and FlyQuest at the end of the day. And EG.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, but the thing for me is like they beat Cloud9 playing a certain style, and
Hmm.
they wouldn't stick to that style for some reason. Like maybe because they didn't think it
Yeah.
was the best way to play. I don't fucking know, but the style where they played early game champs and tried to roll over was, to me, from an
Yeah.
outside perspective, looked like it was working. They did throw a couple games, right? But that fucking happens. You
Hmm.
you just practice and move on, and you those don't happen anymore, right? But to me, it seemed like those games happened, and they were like, "Fuck this, we're not doing it anymore. Let's do something else." And I'm just like, "What the hell?" But that was kind of working. Like you just had to improve a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, it happens.
Hmm. Yeah. I think it's kind of crazy that what's it called? TSM last split, like they were like flexing so many champions and flexing so many different like things around. For example, like set. Like they were playing a lot of set. But nowadays like set's like banned away or picked or whatever. But I don't see TSM pick set yet. And it's been a while since they played that champion, which is kind of crazy because BB's good on that champion. And BB's really
He
good on
was
that
getting a
champion.
ban against him.
And
Nowadays, I don't know. Maybe Aatrox is just better. Tough to say. For BB at
maybe I think
least.
set. Yeah, maybe because I think Set's like a really like hard carry top laner, but at the same time he doesn't like have to build full damage sort of thing. Because TSM like in the Team Liquid game they banned Set, so I guess they wanted the Aphelios, but they didn't pick the Aphelios. They picked the Syndra first. So I'm not sure what TSM's drafting philosophy is, but I think that they should just try to they could play towards strong bot side still, but they should still give BB like a champion that he could like do well on, sort of thing, you know?
Yeah, I think the drafting priority was weird, but I think them playing more of a two carry style is probably where I would want them to move. Bjergsen on Corgi looked much better than Bjergsen on
Syndra.
Syndra, just because it's more scaling. You don't really have to, like, the thing is, like, I think if TSM had drafted more scaling in the TL game, then the game would have been a lot closer.
Hmm.
Uh, but because of the way they drafted, like where we have to win early to win the game, it obviously looked like a wash. And then the game versus Dig, obviously they just chilled, and eventually they got the lead and won the game, right? I mean, they did it pretty fast though. It was only 25 minutes. Like, yeah, it was a quick game. Again versus Dig. I think we could talk about last team. We really haven't touched on. We touched on them a little bit, but Golden Guardians. Uh, Demonte and Closer look like a great deal, right?
Yeah.
They did still have some like iffy moments in their dig game, like their dragon, like some of their decision making with dragon was kind of iffy, where they kind of almost threw the game to me, but like they showed what almost no NA team ever does. Oh look, someone's in a side lane. Oh shit! Like,
Kill him.
he got it. Oh look, he got 2 towers. Oh, he got the inhib. Whoa, insane! I was like, bro, this is how it's supposed to fucking be, man. This is what Europe does. It's like, and I was like so confused because like Golden Guardians, like Demonte, there was one moment, right? So Golden Guardians has 3 Drakes already. Basically, they can do 2 options. They can either all 5 be at the dragon at the very start and just try and burn it down, right? Because that's what they ended up doing. Or B, I mean, they ended up doing that, but later in the game. Or B, split push and use it as pressure. So the first time they used it as pressure, but then like instead of like just committing to pressuring a side lane and like taking an inhib tower and taking an inhib for a fucking one dragon, they decide to like TP and show up to a fight, and then there was a lot of mechanical misplays where like they choked the fight super hard, even though they had the lead.
Hmm.
But then the next Drake, obviously, they just fucking said, "All right, fuck it, we're just gonna fucking commit to the Drake and like zone them out," and they got it, and they had Ocean Soul, and it was like, you know, it's how it's supposed to be, right?
Hmm.
Like, so their decision making was a little iffy in that game, but I think if you refine that kind of style that they were playing, where it's jungle mid prio and they're just fucking split push stomping around the map, like they could definitely do some shit. And Haunter was playing weak side. FBI was popping off on the Kaisa pick. It's good. It was a good game, I think.
Yeah, FEI also forgot to give who he the spear, but we're gonna
That
go
was
past
in
that.
the next game. That was a bot. I don't know. That was a bot diff game to me, honestly. like I was like, I think if they had played a little bit better bot lane, they might have won the game. Because Demonte, I mean, Closer was just like kind of making Brox his bitch, stealing all the like he almost flame horizon Brox out in a game he lost.
Yeah,
Like
closer out here trying to fucking 1v9 every game. It's actually
yeah.
crazy.
I know Jace has been a really big mid pick lately, but like I said before, Team Liquid knew their win condition and just didn't. They just didn't play into Golden Guardians' hand, you know. Like that was it. They got like two drag. They like took one dragon, where what happened was like Hanser used his TP to go top lane, so TL had TP advantage. So Golden Guardians had like to lose a Drake, and when you're playing a comp like Golden Guardians, I don't think you can afford to lose a single Drake. And losing that Drake, I was just like, all right, this game's kind of over already. TL can just sit on their one Drake, and by the time like Golden Guardians even got the soul, you'd lose, right?
Yeah.
So
Which is what happened because
yeah,
they got the Ocean Soul, right? But when they
Yeah.
got the Ocean Soul, Team Liquid already got the Baron. So they were kind of just like running them down.
yeah, and at that point, like I think the difference between team comp was too big.
Yeah.
Like even if you had the soul, like think about it, you got soul and they had Baron, and it's 40 minutes in. That Baron
Is going to do more than the Soul at that
Yeah,
point.
just because of the team comps, because it's Orianna, Aphelios versus Jace, Kalista.
Yeah. When you have an Aphelios and you give them shields and even a Braum to, help them stun targets and shit, like that is, it's not going to be fun for you. Especially
Now,
with Death's
if
Dance in the
Orianna-
game.
Yeah. Now, if Orianna and Aphelios had fucking Ocean Soul, I'd be like fucking GG. You fucking lost, dude. Like it's over. But with Jason Kalista, it's like, maybe not, especially against, like I said, Orianna and Aphelios, and fucking, I don't know how you're supposed to kill Aphelios with this team comp. It's like you're gonna try and poke him out, right? But you got a fucking Braum. Like you need to commit to kill him, and Jace, tough. Good luck trying to kill Aphelios with an Orianna and a Braum.
Yeah. And I really like the Mordekaiser pick from Impact, not just the double haunting guys, but Impact, him picking Mordekaiser was really good because when you ult a target out, it kind of destroys GGS's comp, in my opinion. Like any one target, like it doesn't matter if it's Ornn or Thresh, like their comp literally just falls apart.
Yeah. And he played 2 games of Mord, so I am hoping that we can see something else. Like, I don't know how big of a Jace player Impact is. He did play it in Season 3, but that's a long time ago now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't really play it when he was on TL. He had a couple games on it. Or like when he was on TL earlier in the last 2 years. He only had a couple games on it when it was meta. So I'm hoping to see some Wukong,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not hoping to see only like Aatrox or Mord. I'm like looking to see maybe a little bit more, even though he is probably the weak side player on this team. But I'm not sure. Like the thing that is weird for me for TL is that Broxah kind of seems to be helping he's
Bro,
How
his
do I put this?
pathing.
his pathing is just like
He's helping everyone.
super hard focused. It's super hard focused on propping the lanes up, not
I farm, I
letting
get
them-
strong.
Yeah. So it's very much like he fell behind a lot of farm versus closer in this game, but he was there to counteract ganks, and bot
Mm-hmm.
and top. So to me, it's just like he's protecting them, and then he is relying on them to carry, right? And I think before the style TL needed was more. It was less about that, and it was more about picking a lane and winning. And obviously, usually it was bot lane. So
Yeah, and I think going back to the GGS versus TL game, I think like you said, big draft diff, not just in the Aphelios and Orianna. From experience, when I see a Kalista, I'm picking Braum, bro. I'm fucking exhausting that bitch.
Yeah.
I'm putting stacks on her. Oh my gosh, she can't play the game now. Crazy.
yeah, yeah. I don't think it's a big draft diff. I think it's mostly like Golden Guardians couldn't execute.
Yeah, they couldn't
Like
actually force when they should have.
Yeah.
Or maybe TL weren't giving them the opportunity to force, or whatever the case may be.
yeah, I mean they gave up an Ocean Soul. Like that's where they understand their win condition is like we don't care if you get Ocean if it's 40 something if it's 30 something minutes into the game. our comp is stronger. We will win.
Yeah, as long
And
as TL didn't bleed out too early.
Yeah, and like they kept the gold even the whole game. Even at the end, there's only a 4K difference. Like honestly, that's the good sign to me for TL is that they clearly understood how to play their comp.
Yeah.
And Golden Guardians just couldn't execute. I think if you swap the drafts and the enemy teams they played each other's drafts, I think TL would probably still win because they would be able to execute. Not to say that that's their style, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe their style is just playing these more sit back, wait to 30, 35 minutes where you can clearly win the game because you have a better late game draft, you know?
Yeah. I think the last thing I quickly want to touch on, because it is getting pretty long, the last thing I want to touch on real quick is Dig, because we talked about them a little bit, but not like too much. So, yeah, they have Viper now, and Acadian is the starting jungler, because now Grig's not there. I mean, they still have Dardoch and things like that, another TSM jungler. But I think in their games, I think Viper definitely underperformed extremely, especially in the TSM game, where he was literally just getting caught out randomly without pressing W on set, which like I was talking about set earlier, about if like BB got it. And now when we see Viper have it, oh my god, man, this guy's actually running it. It's kind of crazy.
Did you see when he tried to dive broken blade top and he didn't press W?
Yeah. He tried to go for like a hyphy, sort of like dive top by himself, and then he kind of just died because he didn't press W. Either first week jitters or whatever the case may be, he definitely underperformed this week, which is kind of sus. And maybe Lorlo and Dardoch might be starting next week. Who knows, because of the performance from Viper. But I think the team overall, like, they don't have like a clear like sort of like carry or like clear like win con. I think like Johnson.
I mean, the win con should be Johnson.
Yeah, like Johnson is definitely like their strongest like carry player. I'm not sure if Froggen's that, because I feel like Froggen, he likes to prop up his other teammates more, in my opinion.
I think he's just more of a very himself kind of player. Like in a game where he lost versus Golden Guardians, he was like 405 farm. Like like he's very much for himself.
He was going
and that's
at
like
it.
Always, yeah, that it's always the criticism of him is that he doesn't move. And again, that's why that kind of style of play just doesn't work that well anymore.
You kind of have to like move early in the game if you want to get stuff done, because like out farming your opponent isn't the way it is anymore. You kind of have to make things happen, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and we saw it in the game versus Golden Guardians where Demonte is like, down 10 CS, but he's got 3 KP. I'll take that, fuck it. So yeah, it's tough for Dig. I'm not sure what kind of style they have to play. Because Froggen is just not the kind of player that Demonte is, and it's honestly really funny that they lost to Demonte like right after saying like, "Yo, you're not even our second choice, you're our third choice." And here you go, Golden Guardians.
Yeah.
So yeah, funny. Yeah, I question who's making roster decisions, right?
Yeah. I think next week, if Dig doesn't change anything about their roster, it's gonna be a little sus, in my opinion.
Oh, if they go 0-4, definitely changes. Yeah, and I don't think they even have an easy week next week. They've got they got CLG and FlyQuest, so we'll see if they can beat CLG.
All right. I think it's gone on long enough. I don't think we can do
There's
predictions.
There's a lot of things that happened this week.
Yeah.
In the off season, we didn't do a before season episode, so we didn't touch on the roster changes there.
All right. So you're fine ending it?
Yeah, we're good.
All right, so thank you guys for listening to the Open Mid Leaguecast, episode 12. We will see you guys next week with week 2 of the summer split.